We're in a mini series on grace. We began with our first talk of the year on Amazing Grace because it was the anniversary of John Newton's famous hymn, Amazing Grace, and Fergus preached about that for us. We've now we had a talk from our mission partner Andrew Walker last week, and now we're back on track with our mini series. We are looking at mercy towards others. That's what we're looking at today on this grace theme, showing mercy towards others. Week after, it will be welcome for prodigals, and week after that, grace for the journey. So, mercy towards others. In this passage, where we're going to land is by looking at the importance of family likeness that we see so often displayed in the world. I'm sure that as you think of your own family, you can think of striking family resemblances that go down the generations. In my own family, I'm often told that I walk like my father, and my brother is told that as well. And in this passage, we're going to see the most important family likeness that we ought to have. It's a family likeness that we're to bear if we're part of the family of the living God through Jesus Christ. Psalm 92, verse 12, is a lovely verse that I'm going to read for us now. It says this as we approach this topic of loving enemies and showing mercy towards others. The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those who are planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. Sami Dagger, the Lebanese evangelist, was giving a talk once on the cedar of Lebanon and how the righteous shall grow like a cedar of Lebanon. And he was describing the different qualities of cedars, that they grow tall, that they have roots that go deep. And he was showing the different applications really to the Christian life if we are to grow like a cedar. And he said in a very striking way, as he described difficulties of living in a country where there's been much conflict, that when you break the branch of a cedar tree, it gives off a beautiful aroma. Fragrance fills the air. It evokes so many memories for people. It is a beautiful smell as you break that branch. And Sami Dagger, this evangelist who had been held up at gunpoint and so many other things, said, when people break us, what do they get from us? Is it hatred? Is it spite? Is it a payback mentality? Or is it the fragrance of Jesus, who was broken for us? Friends, this is what we're looking at in this talk, that we are to love our enemies in the way that Jesus did. Just consider how Jesus was when he was arrested. His friend Peter went and drew a sword and went to strike one of his captors, cutting off his ear. And Jesus said, enough. Could he not call down legions of angels if he wanted? But no, when Jesus was hurt and arrested, he loved in return. He loved us in return. The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. What do people get from us? In this passage that we're looking at today, there are four lovely values at least. Love. Do good. Bless. And pray. Well, amen, I hear you say from the back row. Isn't that just wonderful? Love, do good, bless, pray. Well, we're all on board with that, aren't we? We're Christians. Of course. That sounds jolly nice. Let's write that and let's put that, on the fridge. And we will subscribe to that. We will talk about it a lot. We will say that we do those things. We will make great boasts about it, perhaps. Love, do good, bless, pray. But did you see the sentences that those words were found in from the famous teaching of Jesus? For it says, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who ill treat you. And soon enough, sooner or later in our life as Christians, that will be put to the test because we're walking in the footsteps of Jesus. Now, I need to tell you about my high school bully. I'm sure many of us had a high school bully. We couldn't do anything right to please them. This bully, who, for the sake of anonymity, I will refer to as the Big J. His initial was a J. But for the sake of anonymity, the Big J. I could do nothing to please him. His hatred for me seemed totally irrational, and he would stir up his friends against me. He would push me about in the corridors. He would get up in my face. He would take things from me. How was I going to deal with the Big J? He was really the torment of at least a year of my high school life. And so often when I read a passage like this, because really it's, I think, one of the few times I guess I've been bullied, but it was bad. When I read a passage like this about turning the other cheek, I think about the Big J. Well, who is the Big J for you? Who is that person that they have been an enemy to you because they have in some way come against you? Some great unkindness, perhaps. Some hurt. Something you find it hard to deal with. Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who ill treat you. You see, when I read the words on their own, even then I guess I can get my head around it, but when I think about how would I, as a 13-year-old, have heard those words and been able to deal with it in the face of the Big J? Think now about someone who has opposed you, treated you badly, because you love your enemies. The Message version puts it so nicely. As you know, it's a kind of paraphrase version of the Bible, and it says this: if someone slaps you in the face, stand there and take it. If someone grabs your shirt, gift wrap your best coat and give it to them. Make a present of it. If someone takes unfair advantage of you, use the occasion to practice the servant life. No more payback. Live generously. You see, this is the life that Jesus had in mind, and yet it's so difficult, isn't it? But isn't it beautiful? When that person comes, can we turn our fist into hands of prayer? I think the only way we can do that, because certainly I can't do it naturally, is to pray for it. Isn't it strange when we say pray that we might be able to pray that we might be able to pray for that person who's ill-treating us? Love your enemies. Maybe there is just something in us that as we see their hurt and how they come against us, it should draw out of us something of our love. We can ask the Lord to do that he would so change the way we think about them and our mentality that our hearts, in a sense, ache that they might be blessed by God. I don't mean blessed in perhaps their wickedness, but I mean looked after by God and blessed. If someone slaps you in the face, stand there and take it. If someone grabs your shirt, gift wrap your best coat and make a present of it. Because it seems like in the Bible, as God sees our sin, yes, he says that he will judge it, but it also calls out of him, causes to come forth from him great compassion and love, so that he is drawn towards the sinner and Christ comes towards the sinner, offering life. But again, I've got to ask myself, could I love the Big J? As I think about what he was like, could I do good to the Big J as a 13-year-old? Could I bless the Big J? Could I pray for the Big J? Who is the person in your life? And I guess as we look at this passage, it's right that we should say, what is the limits? I mean, do I just, whenever someone asks me for something, I just give them more money? I'll be bankrupted soon. Do I really just turn the other cheek and let them hit the other cheek? If someone ghosts me, well, Perhaps we won't deal with that in lots of depth now. I've spoken on that before. Do look out my sermon called Turn the Other Cheek, where I examined this parallel passage in Matthew. I'll leave a link to that talk in the description of this talk. And I talk about there how it is that we avoid others sinning against us, but at the same time put this into practice, or at least avoid others taking this so far that it becomes ridiculous. Do check that out in the link to this talk. But it seems like Jesus understands that we can overcomplicate this in our minds, and so he gives us a helpful check and balance. And he just says in verse 31, do to others as you would have them do to you. He knows that we understand our own needs very well, and we're very in touch with our own rights and things. So he just says, those sort of needs that you have, think about what they need and help them. Treat others as you would want to be treated. It's a wonderful teaching. But Jesus then gives a corrective and says, in all this, don't be like the world. Verse 32, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. Now, by sinners there, Jesus knows that we are all sinners, but he's using that to identify those outside of the faith community. He's saying, even those outside of the faith community love those who love them. Don't just do good to those who do good to you, because verse 33, what credit is that to you? In the world, everyone loves those who love them, and there's a natural economy, isn't there, of you pat my back, I'll pat yours. We know we all have that tendency, but that's really the way the world works. You do a nice turn for me, I'll do a nice turn for you. There's a sort of expectation like that. But Jesus is calling us to live in a different economy. We might call the first economy the deserving economy. If you deserve good, I will do it towards you. We might call it the deserving economy. And in our sinfulness, we like that because we want to be around nice people. We don't want to have people taking from us and putting us down. But if we pursue that mindset, it will leave us dreadfully in debt. In fact, it will leave us bankrupted, because here's the deal. Before God, although he loves us very much, we are not lovely. The Bible's very clear that we all have a whole host of sinful intentions, things that aren't right. And do listen to Andrew's sermon from last week, which was very helpful on that. He preached that first in Argentina, and he preached it for us. It was just very helpful to see that. We have a whole host of things that aren't right about us. And so if we deal with the deserving economy, well, we don't deserve anything from God, actually. All have sinned. And it will leave us in debt, actually bankrupt. We need a different economy rather than the deserving economy. The second economy, which is really the glorious one, is the grace economy. And that is because, verse 35, the Most High, he is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. You see, God is not kind to those who deserve it, who have been kind to him. He's kind to people like us who ignore him so often, and this world which has turned away from him. He's kind to the ungrateful and the wicked, people like us. And you see, the Lord is saying that we're to live in the same economy that he does, to love enemies and to be kind to those who aren't kind to us. Now, this isn't about earning our way to God as if, we live like this and then God accepts us. No, it's because through Jesus, he does accept us and love us so much that we want to live in the same economy that he does. He's already accepted us through Jesus and loves us no matter what we've done and who we are if we come to him through Jesus. and repenting. And so he's great, he's kind to the ungrateful and the wicked, and so we need to be the same. We don't want to live actually in the deserving economy, but in the grace economy. We need it. I desperately need to live in that amazing grace economy. It is not a case of earning it. Rather, as we look at this passage, it is prompting us to live in the family likeness. For in verse 36, Jesus has said all these things about loving your enemy, turning the other cheek, not asking for things back from people, not lending, expecting to get it back, because this is what he is like. We're to be merciful as our Father, as Jesus' Father is merciful, and as Jesus is merciful. The question becomes, are we like him? Not about doing these things to earn our way to God, but if we know God, we'll want to show the family likeness all the more. You know, a young girl or boy, so often they want to be like mum or dad. They want to show the likeness. They want to be grown up like them. And we're to be like that as well. We're to want to be like our Father who is merciful. Are you showing the family likeness? There's a beauty to it, and boy, does this world need grace. Boy, do I need grace. You know, what do people get from me when they break me? Is it the aroma of Jesus? Then your reward will be great, and you will be called children of the Most High. You will be children of the Most High, because he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful.